So, welcome to the afternoon of day 2 at Hamvention. And I'm glad you're all here. This is where we want you to be. This is Frank Bauer, KA3HDO, in case some of you don't know, our executive director of ARISS.
And to my left and to your right is Rosalie White, K1STO. She's the ARISS liaison to ARL.
Take it away.
Okay, so let me ask a couple questions. How many of you have witnessed an ARISS contact or actually talked to the space station? Yes. Okay, there's a few of you that have not yet. How about, are there any educators in here that have been involved in an ARISS contact? Very good, very good. Okay, well, for those of you that don't know about us or have never experienced this, it's a tremendous opportunity. It's one of those things where you can't explain what it's like until you've actually felt it. And I mean feel it, because it's just amazing. ARISS stands for Amateur Radio on the International Space Station. Hey, Alan. And the logo at the top left shows that we've been doing this on human spaceflight vehicles for 40 years. We're going to talk about that. We're celebrating our past this year, and rocketing into the future. And so we've got a lot of things to talk about today. And so let's kick it off. So as I said, ARISS stands for Amateur Radio on the International Space Station. We provide opportunities for schools to actually talk to the astronauts on space station through amateur radio. They can be anywhere from kindergarten, we've had a 3-year-old actually at one point, all the way up to 16. In other words, college age students. And what our intent is to inspire, engage, and educate students on STEM careers and amateur radio and get them excited about both, to get themselves into our hobby and also to get them interested in the STEM, STEAM, the A is arts, because that's an important piece, especially for young children, but it is for everyone. It's a creative aspect that is important even in engineering design and scientific applications. We, as part of the lead up to the contact, we spend 4 to 6 months with them and make sure that they are doing an educational, a solid educational program, and the students will learn about all kinds of different things. You know, because it's space station, they learn about orbits, they learn about space communications, they learn about space exploration. They want to know what's going on space station, and they learn about radio science, radio technology, which is what the hams want to see, because we want to bring these youth into the core of amateur radio. And so the other part that we do is we serve as backup communications for the International Space Station when all else fails. Now, where have you heard that before?
And of course, at some point early on in our career as ARISS, NASA didn't really want to talk too much about how we were tertiary backup communications, but now they do. They're much more open about the fact that amateur radio is there just in case. Okay, next slide. Okay, got it up already. Thanks. And of course, we also do things that the average amateur radio operator might enjoy doing because we like to encourage lifelong learning. And it is thanks to programs like Packet and SSTV and that sort of thing that we have sponsors that can help us pay for those activities. And you can see some of those up here on the screen. Very important. Some of you in here know who you are. A lot of the individual donors plus our groups up here. And in fact, we just got a nice donation from QCWA just 2 days ago.
Yes, thank you, Keith, I can't talk. Quarter Century Wireless Association. All right. So our primary initiatives, if you haven't figured it out by now, is actually STEAM and STEM education, but we can't do that without an infrastructure of spaceflight hardware. And so we have an engineering team, and we have an operations team, spaceflight operations. And so our volunteers primarily compose all of that, plus all the other things we need to do as a 501c3 nonprofit to keep us alive and growing and healthy.
And of course, our numbers, that's very important to our sponsors. It's one of my jobs is to track the numbers. So I know my team gets really tired of me saying, well, how many people were here and how many people were there? But the numbers shows you through the years how many, we were the very first payload on the ISS. And that's a pretty cool thing to say. Within 2 weeks' time of the ISS opening the doors to people, they had the station set up and running and raring to go. And we do about 60 to 100 of the contacts per year, and that's worldwide. So the U.S. actually gets a little more percentage than the other countries just because we have more schools that are ready to go. And over 1,600 contacts have been done with schools since 2000. And we reach about 40,000 to 200,000 kids engaged in some way each year. Most of our schools involve every kid in the school. It's one of our preferred requirements. And 12 to 15 million witness the contacts because of social media. A lot of times the schools stream the activities during the contact on their Facebook and Twitter. And then, of course, the recording's available afterwards, too. And Frank, you want to talk about the in-kind volunteer?
Yeah, we have you all know this. We have an international worldwide network of volunteers, and we put a lot of hours in on this. You can just ask Charlie Safana how many hours he puts in, AJ9N.
Yeah, I
Those of
think
you
we
that
should
know
have.
any of our
stand up.
volunteers in here, please stand up.
If you've helped
And,
with the school
and that includes all the
contact
ones in the front, too.
and
Anyone that, yeah, exactly. Anybody that's helped. Very good. Keep going. Yeah, internationally, it's really cool to see. We get the equivalent of about $5 million worth of in-kind support from our volunteer team, as well as some of the other in-kind capabilities we get from different organizations.
And do we know anybody in South Dakota that works with the school? We have not had a South Dakota school yet.
Yeah, we need to get South Dakota so we can get this map in the United States all green. So anybody knows anybody in South Dakota that can talk to a school and get us in there, we'd love to make that all green.
Yeah, go up there and live for 6 months.
And then you can look at worldwide how many different countries around the world have actually made contacts. It's pretty amazing.
And then more numbers. This shows you kind of through a whole year the kinds of numbers we see. We track students. We even track students down to, like, is it K4? Is it 5.8? Is it graduate students? Is it pre-service teachers? And indirect is if someone is not at the actual contact but sees the recording, watches it live. And then educators, direct and indirect. And then the public who also watches. So we do track those numbers. NASA wants to know, ISS National Lab wants to know, our sponsors want to know. So there's the kind of the breakdown of the number of schools and number of states again. And as you can see, the kinds of contacts we've done, children's hospitals, we've done it all. I mean, if you can come up with something really new, that's fine. We'll consider it. But we do a lot of science museums, that kind of thing.
And AX2, the NIH contact, is a kind of a different one because it's with the Axiom crew, and we'll talk about Axiom in a little bit. So, but that is a group that is an organization that's building their own space station, commercial space station. And so you see, we're almost 250,000 people were engaged last year, directly or indirectly.
Back to that one?
Yeah. So relative to the contacts, since January last year till now, we've done about 120 we did 120 schools, and so and some of them are doubled up, so we have 124 actually engaged. So the contacts themselves were 120 and 124 engaged. The other thing is, I mentioned Axiom. We did contacts for 2 of their missions to the International Space Station, Axiom 2 and Axiom 3. and a total of 8 contacts for them. The other thing, you see all of these different schools from around the world, but the one I wanted to focus on is Harbor Creek. We have this past year, back in December, we did a contact in Erie, Pennsylvania with Harbor Creek, and I have to say Rosalie did a fantastic job of coordinating and working with the NBC News and directed them actually to this contact because it had so much amateur radio into it. And I'm going to play a little clip from that. But if you just do a Google search on Harbor Creek Contact Today Show, this was on the Today Show. It's a big deal, okay, for us. And so let me play the video.
Yeah, originally they just kind of...
In a town near Erie, Pennsylvania,
NA1SS, this is KC3SGV.
a group of students are trying to contact someone who is not particularly easy to reach.
This is KC3SGV.
All those numbers and letters are ham radio call signs. NA1SS is the International Space Station. A group called ARISS, Amateur Radio on the International Space Station, has organized radio calls between astronauts and some million students worldwide.
What do you do for fun on the space station? Over.
Most of the time, adults do the setup. But at Harbor Creek High School, it's all about the students, which...
So basically, this you can watch the whole 5-minute video later. We're cutting this back for time purposes, but I mean, we got a really good promotion. Amateur radio got a tremendous promotion. I want to thank Rosalie for making that happen.
And for the people who are working with the school, because
Absolutely.
I knew...
Gordon Scannell, our technical mentor, and it was just a tremendous effort by a lot of different people all around, the country to make that successful.
Yeah, I knew they'd make a good school for the NBC to go to. Okay, and want to introduce you to one of the young ladies who has led the ARISS contact in school in her area, and that's Grace. And Grace is W8LG, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then Frank's going to say a couple words, and then he wants you to talk. But she completed her senior year of high school, and she's ready for her next adventure, which is college. And this past year, one of her favorite STEM activities was physics.
Well, that's fun. I love physics.
Where she explored circuits and had some interesting projects that focused on building equipment, a QRP transmitter. She likes the really weak stuff, and with TTL circuits for 40 meters. And when she leaves the forum, by the way, which she'll have to do before it's over, she's getting ready to work with the youth rally here at Hamvention. And that's relating to her satellite operations activities. So I know Frank wants to say a couple words before you talk.
Yeah, so Grace did the West Michigan Aviation Academy contact, and this next picture kind of shows the whole situation. One is Grace making the call, and then just look at her face when the contact happens. The bliss and her father's thumbs up that the contact is successful. Yeah, you're seeing this the first time. And then the other thing I wanted to show, and then turn it over to Grace, was Grace under pressure. There she is, the little dot on the picture, and look at all the people in the audience. Now, everyone that does a QSO is just usually doing one contact with another person. Grace was doing this all as a high school student. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. And thank you, ARISS, for having me. Yeah, I've been able to be a part of several ARISS contacts through my years. I've only been licensed for 3 years, but I've been part of many. I'm part of the West Michigan Aviation Academy contact, as well as a contact that happened at Youth on the Air summer camp as well. These contacts have taught me many things, especially the contact with the West Michigan Aviation Academy taught me hard work and how much work it takes to put in a station. I know we saw the Harbor Creek students, they did a lot of work themselves, and just understanding the hard work and determination that is needed as well. As you could see on the other photo, let's see, can I go back? Yeah. The students behind me, they were getting ready for the contact, and they were, the first person who was going to go, she was saying how she was so nervous, and we're like, you'll do great, just ask your question and be calm. And after the fact, they're so excited, and just seeing and understanding that, like, how ARISS is impacting the students is so moving to me as well. I was also able to be a part of an ARISS contact at Youth on the Air Camp. Youth on the Air Camp is for licensed youth from 15 to 25. So they also had an ARISS contact. This part of this contact, it was a telebridge through a station in Italy, and I was able to ask a question. So the first time there, which was really excited. So we were practicing beforehand, and all the students were talking, and one girl had her question. She's like, I can't wait to get answered, and her photo was about photography and how astronauts take photos. And the next day the contact happened and she got her answer, and she was so excited. So the ARISS program has spun me on to new things, and it's always encouraged me to keep learning. And so I will be going to school to be studying electrical engineering and STEM. So one important takeaway from this contact at the West Michigan Aviation Academy is the teacher said that the amateur radio operators made something complex look easy. And as I go off to college, I hope that I will be able to make the complex easy, and with hard work and determination, succeed.
Thank you, Grace. And she's got another engagement she has to do shortly, too. She's got a satellite contact activity with the youth rally. All right, so we want to spend a couple minutes on the big event we just did in February, which was the 40th anniversary celebration of amateur radio and human spaceflight missions. And just to remind everybody, what I mean by the 40th is that in November of 1983, Owen Garriott, so how many have heard Owen Garriott on the radio? Okay, W5LFL. And unfortunately, Owen passed away, so we couldn't have him at the event. But we did have his son, who actually flew on space station, second generation amateur radio operator, Richard Garriott. So we've been doing this on the shuttle, and then the space station Mir, and now the International Space Station. We've been moving with NASA and the other space agencies as they move from vehicle to vehicle. And we're going to continue to do that as we move forward. And that's kind of the rocketing in the future preview.
So one of the things we did at Florida at our celebration was to honor all the activities, the types of activities that have been done all these years. And so we had a lot of panel sessions that specialized in certain topics. And so you can see some of the photos here of the history of how it all got started, some with the educators, some with the astronauts, how education grew over time, and just everything that powered ARISS up through the 40 years.
Then we had 6 astronauts participating. One had to go virtual at the last minute. He had a personal situation. But, we had people like Richard Garriott. We had Ken Cameron, who was the first person to have a fully licensed crew on the space shuttle. We had Bill MacArthur and Mike Fink, tremendous operators. Some of you, how many of you talked to one of those two folks? Anybody? Yes. Yeah. Oh, Keith's here. Yes, definitely. And then we had Nicole Stott, who brings the arts into this space program. And at the top, the first person that talked on the radio was Owen Garriott. The second one was Tony England. Tony is the virtual for this event.
And their favorite part of their session was telling things that NASA didn't know that they did on their missions.
We learned things that the astronauts did in that session too. Things that we didn't know they did too.
They were pretty funny.
Yeah.
And they said, well, it's been 10 years, so we can't get in trouble now.
Yeah, they're already retired. So we also had some tours of the NASA facility. We had this at the Kennedy Space Center. And we were actually in the Center for Space Education at the Kennedy Space Center. And one of the things that's on the tour, if you ever go down there, is Owen Garriott's radio, which you can see at the top middle, the HT that he used on his flight. Lots of friends, even some extraterrestrial friends, as you can see in the middle. And several of us saw at least one launch. Some of us saw multiple launches. The coolest aspect of this one is Dave Taylor from our group took this SpaceX video while we were out there watching it. And if you look, you can see a little bit of yellow and an arrow on there. That's actually where we are from a rocket's point of view. That's really cool. We also had a gala dinner under the Saturn V rocket there at the Kennedy Space Center. And actually, we had not only our own team there, but we had some interesting other people there. Some extraterrestrial visitors from a galaxy far, far away. As part of the 501st Squadron came in. They're volunteers too, by the way. And this is one of my favorite pictures. One of our educators, his daughter Tater, he did this picture with her. And actually this is, you know, from a New Hope. And it actually shows what we're trying to do with amateur radios, bring new hope into the amateur radio community by bringing all these youngsters, if you will, into the amateur radio hobby. So I just want to say a couple words, and I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Education, and that is our ARISS 2.0 vision. Some of you have probably heard about this. It's the ability to inspire, educate, engage students as well as lifelong learners. How many lifelong learners do we have in this room? Everybody should be. We're always learning something new. That's what the whole idea of amateur radio is. And so, you know, having these additional educational capabilities available, making the systems available 24/7, utilizing them on different platforms, the International Space Station, commercial vehicles, lunar orbiters, going from low Earth orbit into deep space also, to try to have all this capability out there. And so we have a lot of initiatives underway, like the expansion with Axiom on commercial space flights, and then the extension of amateur radio from an educational perspective. And I'm going to turn it over to our brand new Director of Education, Tanya Anderson, and let her take over.
Push down.
Yeah, push down.
Hi, I'm Tanya Anderson. I am I guess new. I've been in this position for about 8 months now. I started in August. So I am actually an educator. I've been in the classroom for 20 years. The last 16 years, I've been teaching junior high science in Illinois. So, we've done a lot in the last 8 months that I've been the Director of Education. I held my contact back in 2014 with my own school, and I've been involved in other projects. But coming to ARISS, it kind of combines all of my passions of education and space exploration, amateur radio. And so we've made some improvements or additions to the education program. We want to make this more than just about that 10-minute contact. So one of the first things we did is we're now accepting our proposals for the education contacts 4 times a year. So you can see up here, it kind of shows the chart of all the different proposal windows and when those contacts are going to happen. So it's usually about 4 to 6 months after those proposals are accepted. This is also allowing us to give education institutions more personalized feedback. So if they submit a proposal that's not accepted, we can engage with them and say, this is what we'd like you to strengthen in your proposal, and then encourage them to resubmit that proposal. I've started a monthly educational update newsletter. Some of you may be receiving these emails from me. And what we're trying to do with this is we're trying to stay engaged with the schools after their ARISS contact. So we do all this work with these schools and these educators the 4 to 6 months leading up to this contact. And then it was like, okay, bye, thanks for playing. And we're like, no, we want them to stay involved with the amateur radio community. And so that's the point of these educational updates. The team of educators I work with, we have about 25 educators on our education committee, and they help come up with things to put in these educational updates. So we also have educational ambassadors. So when an organization is chosen for an ARISS contact, they receive a technical mentor, but they also receive an ARISS educational ambassador. And this was something that was started before I joined the ARISS team, but we're really working on having those education ambassadors and the technical mentors increase communication and really be a strong support network for our organizations that are holding their contacts. We have established an educational partnership with Estes Rockets. So that happened around the 40th anniversary. I'm very excited about this partnership. Estes Rockets shares some of the same passions that ARISS does as far as STEM education and reaching our youth. So they are promoting our education and our curriculum, and then we are hosting their lesson plans and their curriculum on our websites. We're also attending some educational conferences together. So it's a great partnership. We're all trying to share the same message with our youth. We are in the process of updating the ARISS website. If any of you have ever been to our website, I know it's not the easiest thing to work through right now, but we are working on it. That's one of my goals for this summer. And so we have updated the educational resources on our website. It shows our Sparky radio kit. So if you've stopped by the table, you see all the pieces to our radio kit there that we provide training for educators, and then we send them home with this radio kit. So all of the lessons are up on our websites. We also have lessons and curriculum from some of our educational partners like NASA and ESA. And so all of that is available on our website. So it's kind of one-stop shopping for educators. So we did hold a mini Sparky workshop. So Sparky is our radio kit for our educators. So we held a mini workshop. Usually the workshop is 2 days long. We bring educators in and teach them all about our lessons and how to use the radio kit. So we did it in about 2 or 3 hours at the 40th celebration. But what made this workshop special was we had educators from all over the world. So we had educators from Italy and Japan attend our workshop because we're trying to share this curriculum with not just educators in the US, but worldwide. And then, like Rosalie said, we had several educator panel sessions during the 40th. We had a lot of our education volunteers talk about the impact that the ARISS contact had on their school community and them personally. And we, Frank and I actually just were in DC. We are working with the Tuskegee Airmen Youth Program. We were working with some of their educators, and in August, we are going to help them do a large-scale youth event where we're going to teach some of our lessons from the Sparky kit. We're going to teach them about waves and frequencies and software-defined radio, so that's going to be very exciting. And then also, if you stop by our table, you see our little robots on our table. That's our space tele-robotics using amateur radio. And so the whole point of these robots is they are supposed to simulate what rovers on Mars or the moon actually, how they work. So our robots can work with Bluetooth, they can work with Wi-Fi, and then APRS using our mission control software. And that little gray box you see on the top, that has a CubeSat sim board in it, and so it takes slow scan television pictures. So our students can move the robot, then take a slow scan image and figure out where they want to move next, just like the rovers really do on Mars. So they have to learn a little bit of patience because, you know, those slow scan images take a little bit to come through. So it's kind of teaching them what it really takes to move a robot in outer space.
Thank you, Tanya. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Axiom, which is part of our ARISS 2.0 initiative. And why are we doing this? They're the first commercial company to fly private astronaut missions to space station. They've actually flown three of them right now. We're working on the fourth one with them at this point. The important part of this, though, is they're building modules that are going to attach to space station. And then if at some point in the future, because in 2030, NASA is saying that they're going to decommission space station, we'll see, because they've said that before on other dates. But if they do, whenever they do decommission, the modules that Axiom is flying will have propulsion and power, and they can operate independently of the International Space Station. In other words, be their own space station. So we're working with them, and we're working with other industry partners that are building commercial space stations, because NASA's going to get on those vehicles and others are going to get on those vehicles, and we need to learn the business model of how to do this, okay? And the earlier we start, the more our potential for being a solid organization that's part of their infrastructure. The sooner we can do that, the better, the higher the chances of that happening, okay? So as of right now, I mentioned we've done 3 missions with them. The first mission, they had 2 astronauts. They got licensed as part of it. For the 4 people fly on each one of these missions. The next 2 missions, 3 utilized our equipment on space station. Now the other ones had their license previously, but they're the commanders. You know, Mike L.A. and Peggy Whitson. They've done ARISS before, but they're commanders, and they've got a short duration mission. They need to make sure it's going to go perfectly. So they've decided that they want to focus on that and not on the amateur radio part, which is fine with us. So you can see the different individuals that have been involved. We are also working actively with Axiom on Axiom Flight 4, which is right now planned for April of next year. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Randy Berger, our Director of Engineering, and let him talk a little bit about where we are. He's got some good, very important announcements to share today.
All right, thanks, Frank. Well, it's hard to follow Grace and Frank and robots that are at our table today, but let's give it a shot here. This past year, we were kind of very busy, and we were working with the Student Mission Control boards for the kids, right? And basically what it was going to be is a board that's going to go up in the space station, connect to a Raspberry Pi, and be able to bring off sensor information. Well, we developed the board a little over a year ago, and then back in January of last year, we got sidetracked. We had the board completely debugged. We have the gas sensors, accelerometer, and everything on it, which is really cool. So we were prepped to take that up there. Ham TV kind of interfered with our progress because we had to take it through certification at NASA, so we kind of got slowed down on that. But during the summer, I actually found another board that is super smaller than the one we've got, right? It has accelerometer on it and temperature controls and a whole bunch of stuff. The only thing it really doesn't have is the gas sensors, which are the big things here, right? So that's actually cool. So we kind of paused there on the student mission control and kind of working with that. And we focused on Ham TV this past year, right? We thought it was very important. And how many of you have heard of Ham TV? Anybody heard of it? Okay, there's a few. Okay, great. Awesome. So we worked very hard on that this past year. And so it's using direct broadcast video, kind of like DTV. Has anybody heard of DTV, basically? Yeah, that's great. Well, the awesome part about it is we have astronauts and we have kids, right? And instead of having a $10 or $20 million satellite, we have a $1 billion space station. And so we've actually gotten up to it here in
30th Commercial Resupply Services mission for NASA. It kicked off on Thursday, March 21st with a launch from Launch Complex 40 at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket at 4:55 p.m. Eastern Time. It carried more than 6,000 pounds of scientific research.
And I'll skip that. But the next part just kind of shows it making it to the space station. But this past year with NASA, we kind of had a lot of fun with them, and they started having a lot of fun with this in the last 3-4 months of our trying to get prepped and get the ham TV up to the station itself. Matter of fact, I think from about September on, we were constantly working, the engineering team. We have approximately about 12 engineers that are in the U.S., Canada, and U.K. that's been helping with this on a fairly regular basis. And we've done a really, really good job on it. And then the last couple of months or so, when we were getting ready to send it for flight, it became whack-a-mole. And that was pretty difficult. Even after we delivered it, I hand-delivered it December 22nd, right before Christmas, to the bonded area, and thought, we're done with this, right? We're done. Then in January, Frank and everybody started receiving emails from engineering saying, hey, you got to do this and this and this. And it's like, oh, no, that can't be true. You said we signed off on this. So this is really what we've been doing for the past year with NASA, trying to get things certified. And it actually started with when we took it through some tests a little over a year ago in December 22. We found out that we were causing some interference. They thought we were before in the past, back in 2017-18. And we weren't sure about that, but we ran our own test, and sure enough, we were causing some significant issues on, and so we are going to have a filter put into this. So the problem is that ham TV was developed by the Italians, and they use these military connectors to connect everything up, right? And during COVID, those connectors were very, very hard to get. Matter of fact, we tried to get them. They're 3 years out to get them, and we were hosed. We didn't know what we were going to do about that, right? And after doing some research, I think it took us almost 2 months to figure it out, actually. We were scrounging around for cables, and that purple cable in the middle, we hijacked from the Italians, and we have to thank them for letting us borrow it because we're going to have to return it. But we took that cable, and we were able to get a filter and work with this. Well, so we have a really nice filter, this Furrion filter that is now up on the space station. Just don't tell NASA it came from off of a tailgate off of a pickup truck, because we were trying to find things. But it was pretty cool, and it's a really good filter. We actually tested 3 different filters. We bought one that was a commercial one that was brand new, and it was an 8-pole one. It was a little bit better, not tiny bit better, but it had about almost 2 dB of loss, more than this filter did. And we're like, okay, now we're going to go back to this. And then our UK brethren, they actually said, well, let's try to get one for you too. So they had one that was commercially made over in the UK and shipped it over to us, and we tested it. It wasn't as good as this one, so we ended up going with this one, right? So that actually was really pretty good. And then we had to 3D print the housing for it, which you saw on the previous slide there. And now we are in the middle of, now that we've got, just kind of stepping forward a little bit, we've got the ham TV up on this space station. It hasn't been installed yet, and that's going to happen in the next month or so. But we are also going to hook it up to a newer camera. They have new HDMI cameras up on the space station today, and so we're going to input to those because we're using one of their RCA cameras that they have up there with the composite video. But we're also going to interface it to a Raspberry Pi too, so we can send pictures up and send pictures out with Raspberry Pi too. So that's going to be pretty cool because they're not going to have the video cameras on all the time on the space station, right? But they're only going to be on during school contacts, pretty much. I think is how they're going to use the video from up there. This is a picture of the antennas on the space station. This is Columbus up here, but you can see antenna number 41 is our ham TV. It's a patch antenna. It has about 7-8 dB of gain on it, facing back down towards Earth here. Well, while we were working on the hardware with ham TV, we did continue to work with the software on the student virtual mission control, and part of that software was to control the radio remotely that we have over today. So on this station today, we have several Kenwood 700, 710 radios, and the 710s are running APRS and also the crossband repeat at this point in time. So we actually have a Raspberry Pi figured out now and how to control the radio remotely. And so we can do lots of things with it. We can control the settings for either setting into crossband repeat. We can do APRS. And we can also do telemetry with digital under voice. So as a crossband repeat is working, we can actually send telemetry back down too and decode that, which is really cool. And so Chris Thompson did that. He did a really good job on that. So one of our things that we were doing for ARISS 2.0 was to think about the future. And back in 2019, design came up from AMSAT and ARISS and the team to work on a package called Caviar. And this was going to be going on the future for the Lunar Gateway. So if the Lunar Gateway is a spacecraft that will be going around the moon, and it's going to be in their L2 orbit, which is actually behind the moon itself. And the way that it was envisioned was it would have patch panel antennas on it, and it would have a camera, and it would be using the 5 and dime, which I think AMSAT will probably talk about here in a little bit, but it would be using a 5 gigahertz up and 10 gigahertz down. And we actually, after we got done working on the ham TV back in January this year, we thought, well, maybe we can make and do a small design for our 40th anniversary. And so we targeted to working on that for February. And we actually got half of it completed, and we did show it off at the anniversary, which was really pretty cool. But since then, our engineering team has done a lot of work seeing if we could get 5 gigahertz up and 10 gigahertz down, and being able to do multi-modes. So today we can actually do voice, SSTV, telemetry. We can do the PACSAT capabilities. And that's it up here right now, up here on this, up in front of you over here, is Caviar, and it's fully functional. We also have a ground station too. It's at our booth, and if you guys are interested, after the meeting here, after we get done, we can go over and I can demonstrate or show you how that works. We also have a session at 2 o'clock for the youth, so if you want to attend that session too, you're more than welcome to do that too. So that'll give you a little bit of time, so you can go to the AMSAT right after us, and then at 2 o'clock you could actually come see a demonstration of Caviar. But its intentions is to go on the Lunar Gateway, either on the Habitat or Logistics module. We're still working with NASA on that. Their engineers are still trying to decide what's best and where to place this at, so we're still involved with that here. But we had like 3 phases with it. Our first phase was using 3 SDRs inside of the Caviar and 6 antennas on it. So we 3D printed Caviar, and we have the 5 gigahertz antennas there you can see, and that worked very, very well for demonstration purposes that we were shown at the 40th anniversary. We had 2 different pieces of software. We had a GUI that you can just touch a button to change it and modes and everything with it. And then we also have the capabilities of going to telling it which direction that you're receiving a signal. So the awesome thing about this is that it can be spinning, and it'll automatically switch to whatever antenna is the best antenna to Earth. And a really good demonstration of that was at our 40th anniversary when we had one of the NASA administrators there that Thursday evening when the lander landed, the U.S. landed, Intuitive Machines landed their lander on the moon. And unfortunately, it landed on a rock. It was tilted at 30 degrees. And the antennas, they couldn't receive it. And the amazing thing was, and the administrator actually, I heard the comment was, he was wishing he was back at headquarters or someplace else where we could actually be seeing what's going on. Phil, one of our amateur radio operators and one of my engineers from the UK, works at Goonhilly. He was able to log into Goonhilly, and we were able to put up on the screens and be able to see the streams of data coming from the lander. It was just amazing to see that, right? Because at the same time while we're seeing the data, we could actually see in Intuit Machines mission control them saying that they couldn't contact it yet. They couldn't hear it, right? But we knew it was alive. And so it was really pretty impressive, I think, at that time, showing and demonstrating something like that. Plus then sending the concept like, hey, if you would have had 6 antennas on the side, you might not have this problem. We could have automatically figured out which way was Earth. Maybe, so we'll see. But so we had 3 different phases, and I'll just back up one slide here. So the second phase, is it up on the screen? No, that's 3. Yeah, the second phase, as you can see, that green board in the middle there. So we had 3 SDRs inside of this to get the 6 channels. We reduced it down to 1 SDR, and then we put in an 8 gigahertz switch inside of it, which actually went up to 10 also. And it does perfectly. So today in that Caviar, we have a gigahertz switch in it, which is switching between all the different antennas and checking everything out. And then we added in the capabilities of going 10 gigahertz, and it is fully operational at this point. So the middle part actually has some fans in it because we had to keep it cool on Earth, but we might not need that up in space, of course. And this was just kind of a screenshot of the antennas. You know, it detected automatically which direction Earth is in your ground station, the capabilities of that. We have the PACSAT capabilities built into this too. We're fully operational with PACSAT, so we can send messages up and down, and we can look at the telemetry too. Here's a shot of this telemetry screen, which is really cool. And we can also do slow scan TV too with it today, so which is really nice. So it's pretty exciting. It's kind of exciting where we're going with this, and we're debating about trying to do an experiment maybe on the ISS first before we get out to the gateway. So we're considering that at this point in time. And I think that's it. I'll turn it back to Frank.
Thank you, Randy. And just so you understand, you know, if you look at the caveat, the Earth moves around in virtual. If you're at the moon, the Earth moves around it once a month. That's why you want to have it like that. All right, so our next speaker is Jim Reed, who's going to talk about our social media.
Randy's like, it's hard to follow Tanya. Follow the guy that's got to put something on the lunar orbit. Try that for a second. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim, N4BFR, and I do the social media for ARISS. What do we do on social media? Well, we're really focused in 5 areas, right? We want to educate you and other people on the work of the educational groups are doing. So everything that Tanya's groups are doing, we want to make sure the word gets out. We also want to make sure that we're telling you all the operational things. So if the radios are going to be out for progress undocking, we want you to know when that's going to happen, because you don't want to be standing out in the middle of the field going, why can't I hear the ISS, right? So that's a great reason to follow us. We're sharing the ARISS story as well, telling about our sponsors and fundraising and those kind of things. We're also engaging people. So we're asking, hey, what kind of radios do you use? I saw a great example of this is somebody posted the other day, hey, I got a Baofeng that allows me to track the pass as it goes on. So right on the front of the screen, he's custom programmed it so he can track the ISS as it passes along. See, sharing those kind of things is really cool. And then we're talking about special activities as well, and I'll show you some examples of that real quick. So here's educational proposals. Every time there's a window, we've got multiple reminders. When contacts are upcoming, you want to be able to listen to them. Almost all of them are live streamed these days, so you can jump on and do that. I mentioned the operational activities, including SSTV events. This worked really well for when we did the special holiday SSTV event on the repeater. We could share all the pastimes in the different parts of the world as well. So that was really exciting. Talking about the Today Show event. And by the way, if you're looking for that full Today Show video, check ARISS Social and get your phones out, because there'll be a link to ARISS Social in a second. But 50,000 impressions for ARISS from that Today Show video. That is something really terrific for us. And talking about things like 40th anniversary and other times that people do stories on us. Engagement. Do you want to know more about how to get involved with our events? Houston, we have a podcast. NASA does podcasts. NASA writes articles. Or we're coming out to different places, right? We're going to be at Huntsville. We're going to be wherever. You can find out where we're going to be. ISS RDC is coming up, and Tanya's team is going to be out there as well. As far as special events go, we obviously did a lot on the 40th anniversary. And I'll just say this. After the big dinner on Friday night, I got to ride on a bus and sit next to Ken Cameron and across from another astronaut, and they both got Estes rockets. If you want to see an astronaut act like a kid, see them with an Estes rocket, because they're like, oh, well, I got the SLS. Well, I got the Falcon 9. And I could see them the next day going off and shooting these things up, no problem. Right now, we want to thank you all. We've got 35,000 followers on social media, and we generate about 1 million impressions for ARISS every quarter. So an impression is every time somebody looks at a post of some kind. Want to continue to up that. So if you can follow us, if you can have other people follow us, that's great. Why is that important? It's not just for us, it's for all the sponsors that Rosalie works with, because every month they look at how many follows do you have? How much did you grow? How many posts did you have? Those kind of things. So it helps NASA and the other folks who sponsor us engage as well. So that would be really helpful. In the future, if we can grow this big enough, there could potentially be in money for it for ARISS. So, for instance, I'll give you an example of YouTube, right? If we can get to a certain amount of watching every year, YouTube will give us money for our content. So more people watching our stuff, that'd be really helpful. Other things we're trying to think about doing here, like I said, like, share, follow. We could love to use more videos, right? So right now, we're able to do 1 video a week, maybe a little bit, maybe 2 a month. We just did this space chat video, and it's just a 30-second audio clip from a recent contact. On a normal month, a single post gets about 2,100 views. This video alone is approaching 10,000 views. Now, part of that is thanks to NASA astronauts retweeting us, but part of it is just videos get more engagement. So if you're out and shooting a video of your contact, tag us in Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you're at, and we'll be glad to take a look at that, potentially reshare it. If you'd like to edit video as a hobby and maybe want to cut some things down for us, come see me after. I'd love to talk to you about volunteering. We have a whole list of volunteers we're looking for ARISS. So if you're ever interested in getting more engaged with us, come see us. And you don't have to be a tech nerd, right? You can be an administrative person or work with the teachers or whichever one you want to do. But think about volunteering with us as well.
This is Isaac. What activities do you do to relax in space? Over.
Well, this is one of the activities I do to relax. It's nice to talk to people outside the space station for a chance, and I get to talk to you guys today, so this is relaxing. I like to go look outside the window. I like to take pictures. I probably got close to maybe 100,000 pictures at this point that I've taken, trying to capture the beauty of the space station inside and out. Over.
Pretty straightforward. He likes to talk to people. He loves to do ARISS while he's up there, which is really what we want to hear, right? That's the important part. Okay, we want you to follow us. And here's an easy way to do that. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Reddit, Threads, and Blue Sky. So if that's too hard to remember, if you have a platform that you like that we're not covering, let me know. But pick one. We really post the same thing in just about on every platform, so pick one or pick them all, whichever one you want. Probably the most active forums are X and Facebook. So if you could help us out with a follow, we would really appreciate that. And I'm going to turn it back to Frank for the summary, and I guess we probably got time for a little Q&A.
Yeah, we do. All right, so you all heard what we're doing this year. It's been breathtaking to watch this team, do all of the things we've done this past year, whether it's education, engineering, operations. And I want to thank everyone again for your interest in coming to this forum, but also, your volunteerism, those of you that have supported us over the years, and both from a volunteer support, but also any kind of donations. We're always looking for donations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rosalie for any other parting comments.
Again, just to thank you for all your support over the years, and you had faith in us, and the people who donated put their trust in us to use their money in a good way, and we appreciate you, every one of you.
All right, so are there any questions? Where can he get resources that have satellite operations experience to help him and in his state to grow this further? I think, we can kind of help you. The AMSAT community, they're our partners in all of this too. They're our sponsors. They potentially have individuals that could help you. Probably start with us as well as AMSAT and work that to try to make it happen. Okay. There was another question. There's 2 of them. Yes. What do you need to prepare for Ham TV? We do have a website available now. Randy, look on social media. It's on social media. So go there, and we have a website that provides instructions on how to do that. And we are going to be looking for stations around the United States for that. Yes. Okay. So he's asking what radio we use for the school contacts and the percentage of direct versus telebridge. Direct telebridge is about 60% direct, 40% telebridge, of that order. relative to the radio, come to the ARISS booth in building 3, and you can see the exact replica. It's not just a replica, it is our flight test. I'm sorry, I said 3. 4, the Volta building. Let me get it straight. 4, the Volta building. We're in there as you come in the double doors, and you can see the actual radio. It's the interoperable radio system that we have. And we use that one in the Columbus module. We have another one in the service module, and we can use either one of them for the school contacts. Okay? Yes. Let me say that we can handle all of that. So he was asking about that our proposal has English, and it's focused mainly in English. That's true over the United States for the most part, although we have done some Spanish contacts. But we are doing this internationally, and so schools, depending, sometimes the education part for like a school in Sweden is to learn English enough to be able to do it. But a number of times when an astronaut that is in the home country, we end up doing a lot of schools in that home country because it's their native language. Okay? Any others? Okay, I've got a 3-minute video of Hope Lee could not make it, and then we're done because it's 10 after. Hope Lee could not make it, so she generated a nice little video.
Hope was at our forum last year, and you probably know them from the young gals who do the satellite contacts. So she's now in university, and she wanted to be here, but she couldn't, so she did a little video for us.
Hi everyone, I'm Hope, November Delta 2 Lima. I've been a ham since I was 8 years old and an amateur extra since I was 9. Now I'm 17, so doing the math, that puts in about half my life I've been a ham. So it's been a long journey, but an exciting one and one filled with space from the very beginning. And I'm so glad that the very first contact when I was first licensed in 2015, that I made over an amateur radio satellite, it has opened a whole new world to me, opened up a community, and inspired me to love space and engineering as much as I do.
But what was lacking for me was the connection to human spaceflight. And I didn't really get this connection until in 2021. I was a camper at the first YOTA in Region 2, and I was selected as an ARISS participant. And so for the first time, I was able to see everything fall into place, talking to someone who was actually living and working in space, living my dream. And it was like everything I'd learned about and come to love about technology, radio, engineering, and the people that I've met along the way in my journey, it all came together and it all led to a future in space. And I really loved this feeling and I wanted to share it with other students, which is why I thought it'd be a really great idea to go on the other side of an ARISS contact. Not yet as the astronaut, but at least as an organizer for other students to be able to have this same feeling and this same opportunity. So as a new student at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University last fall, I joined the Amateur Radio Club on campus, which I later became president of, and our ARISS proposal was accepted. We were so excited, so we started to build our own antennas, and we spent tons of meetings learning how to set up and use all the equipment so that we could hopefully have a successful direct contact with the ISS. Also in preparation, several middle schools and also elementary schools were involved, and we got to visit their classrooms several times as a club to teach them everything about radio, electronics, satellite, rocketry, physics, even space arts, because we wanted to connect with as many students as possible. And then early this April, we were so excited to bring the students to our campus and to hold a successful and memorable ARISS contact. And after all this, what else could you expect? Of course, I want to be an astronaut one day, and one day to be on the other side of an ARISS contact, inspiring other kids to get into amateur radio and to love space exploration as much as I do. Everything I'm working on today, including schoolwork, which is why I'm not with you at the Hamfest, is with this goal in mind. And my studies to become an electrical engineer and one day a medical doctor are with this future in mind. And as a part of my training so far, I have been able to attend 2 analog Mars missions, both at the Mars Desert Research Station, which is in Utah, and I was a part of the first high school cruise ever to go there. I designed this station's amateur radio station, and I also got to perform research on a radio mesh network for use on Mars. Additionally, I am going to attend a lunar analog mission in Poland, this time at the Analog Astronaut Training Center. And this is with my crew from Project Possum. Now, if you don't know what they do, it's kind of awesome. I trained with them for human spaceflight on a suborbital mission, working in pressurized IVA suits. I learned all about space physiology. We underwent hypoxia training, zero-G and high-G flights, as well as a suborbital mission simulated. All of this is for my future in human spaceflight. It's a huge dream of mine. It's my future that all began with my first QSOL and began with all of you. So thank you. Enjoy the Hamfest in 73.
So we thought we would end the ARISS activity with that wonderful video, and to show that ARISS is moving, our next generations are starting to really move out. You heard from Grace, you've heard from Hope, and there's many others that have been doing this, moving out and actually becoming integral into amateur radio as well as into ARISS. So expect Hope to be on space station or some other commercial space station or some lunar mission in the future. With that, everyone have a great rest of the day. 7 3s.